Before the glitter of television lights, Felicity and Kendal's life began in a swirl of constant motion. Born in 1946 to an English theatrical family, she arrived not in the cozy predictability of a suburban home but into the roaming, unpredictable world of a repertory troupe. Her father, the charismatic actor and director Geoffrey Kendal, ran the Shakespeareana Company, performing Shakespeare plays across India. Her mother, Laura Liddell, was a strong-willed performer who believed in independence at a time when women were expected to follow. The Kendals crisscrossed the Indian subcontinent, performing in makeshift theaters and dusty school halls. Little Felicity learned early that love and art could be intoxicating and destructive in equal measure. The family often lived out of trunks, slept on trains, and faced financial uncertainty, conditions that bred both resilience and a craving for emotional intensity. From her earliest memories, Felicity associated affection with spectacle. Arguments between her parents were fierce, theatrical, and oddly magnetic. One night they could be screaming at each other over a missed cue, and the next morning laughing like lifelong conspirators. To young Felicity, love was already a play filled with fiery dialogue and sudden reconciliations. This childhood atmosphere would echo through every romance of her adult life. When the family finally returned to England, Felicity was a striking teenager, lively, quick-witted, and already seasoned by life on the road. Boys at school were drawn to her exotic stories of India and her mischievous sense of humor. She flirted freely, enjoying the sparks of attraction but rarely staying with one suitor for long. Friends remember her describing love as a game where you must never let the other player guess your next move. This playful but guarded attitude kept many admirers at arm's length and set the pattern for a lifetime of passionate but complicated relationships. In 1968, at just 22, Felicity married actor Drew Henley. They met during stage work in London, where Drew's rugged charm and rebellious streak instantly captivated her. Their courtship was a whirlwind of smoky pub nights, midnight rehearsals, and secret plans whispered behind theater curtains. To Felicity, Drew seemed like a fellow outlaw in the conservative British theater scene, someone who, like her, valued adventure over convention. But excitement came with volatility. Drew wrestled with emotional instability and a restless career, and Felicity's own ambitions soon outpaced his. Friends recall evenings when heated artistic discussions turned into door-slamming fights. The couple argued about roles, about money, and about Felicity's growing fame. One witness described a particularly dramatic night in which Felicity, after a rehearsal, stormed out of a London pub shouting, "You can't love me and still cage me." The marriage survived these early storms for a few years, but the cracks were visible even as Felicity's career began to rise. As Felicity's acting gigs multiplied, so did temptations. The late 1960s London theater scene was a charged atmosphere of bohemian parties, daring plays, and intoxicating personalities. Rumors swirled about brief flirtations with directors and fellow actors. While no affair was ever confirmed during this period, gossip columnists hinted at late-night cast gatherings where the young Mrs. Henley's laughter could be heard until dawn. Felicity later admitted she liked to test the limits of attraction, though she stopped short of naming names. By the early 1970s, the combination of Drew's personal struggles and Felicity's relentless schedule became impossible to ignore. He grew jealous of her growing list of admirers and resented the attention she received from critics. She, in turn, felt stifled by his possessiveness and longed for the freedom she had known as a child traveling through India. Their fights were legendary among theater friends, sometimes witty, sometimes cruel, always passionate. Watching them argue, one colleague said, was like watching a play within a play, two actors who couldn't stop performing, even in pain. In 1975, the marriage ended in divorce. Felicity called it a necessary heartbreak, a phrase that perfectly captured the bittersweet pattern her love life would continue to follow. She left not with bitterness, but with a renewed determination to live boldly, no matter the cost. Single and fiercely independent, Felicity auditioned for a new BBC sitcom about suburban self-sufficiency, The Good Life. Landing the role of Barbara Good would make her a household name. It would also throw her into the glare of a national spotlight where every friendship, every glance, every late-night drink with a co-star could ignite rumors. From the very first taping, audiences sensed a natural, playful chemistry between Felicity and her on-screen husband Richard Briers. Fan letters poured in, some insisting the two must surely be in love. The tabloids sharpened their pens, eager to paint the smiling Barbara Good as a flirt behind the scenes. While Felicity laughed off these stories, those close to her admit that the attention both thrilled and unsettled her. For a woman newly divorced and enjoying her independence, the sudden public fascination with her personal life was a double-edged sword. Fresh from her divorce and basking in the runaway success of The Good Life, Felicity was Britain's new sweetheart, bright, witty, and irresistibly charismatic. Among the admirers drawn to her orbit was Michael Rudman, a talented American theater director with a magnetic presence and a reputation for both brilliance and volatility. Rudman was tall, silver-tongued, and as passionate about the stage as Felicity herself. Their first real conversation took place after a late-night rehearsal at the National Theatre. He teased her about a misdelivered line. She fired back with a sharp-witted retort. Friends who witnessed their exchange described it as love at first duel, a spark of playful combat that quickly ignited into romance. The pair began seeing each other secretly at first, meeting in quiet West End cafes and slipping out of post-show parties together. But secrecy was impossible for long. London theatre circles buzzed with whispers of the new power couple. Rudman, separated from a previous partner, was equally captivated. He once told a colleague, "She's a force of nature. You don't direct Felicity. You just try to keep up." By 1983, Felicity and Michael were married. The wedding itself was a relatively private affair, but the press still managed to secure grainy photos of the couple leaving a Chelsea registry office, laughing like conspirators. To outsiders, it looked like a match made in theatrical heaven, the nation's favorite actress and a rising star of the directing world. Behind closed doors, however, the relationship was anything but serene. Both were fiercely ambitious and fiercely opinionated. Arguments over scripts, casting decisions, and career moves often spilled out of their home and into rehearsal rooms. Stage managers recalled tense rehearsals where Felicity and Michael's creative debates would veer into personal territory. One actor from a 1985 production described the atmosphere as electric. You never knew if they were about to kiss or kill each other. Yet the fire between them also fueled their work. Collaborations crackled with intensity, and the sexual chemistry that had first drawn them together remained strong. Friends noted that after a night of ferocious arguments, the couple would arrive at breakfast the next morning hand in hand, smiling as if nothing had happened. For Felicity, raised in a family where love and conflict were inseparable, the turbulence felt strangely familiar, almost comforting. In 1987, Felicity began working with playwright Tom Stoppard, whose reputation for intellectual brilliance was matched only by his quiet, sly charm. Stoppard was at the height of his fame, admired for his razor-sharp wit and poetic scripts. From the first table read, there was an undeniable spark. Actors noticed how Felicity's eyes lit up when Tom entered the room and how his carefully measured compliments seemed aimed solely at her. At first, the connection was purely professional. But late-night script discussions stretched longer and longer, and soon the gossip pages were hinting at something more. Journalists began camping outside rehearsal spaces, hungry for a photograph of the actress and the playwright sharing a cab. Both denied any impropriety, but the rumors refused to die. For Michael Rudman, the whispers were intolerable. He confronted Felicity repeatedly, sometimes in private, sometimes in the full view of stunned theater staff. One production assistant recalled a shouting match backstage where Michael accused Tom of writing love letters and dialogue, while Felicity shot back that Michael's jealousy was strangling her creativity. The tension reached a fever pitch during a charity gala when photographers caught Felicity and Tom laughing together at the after-party while Michael stood a few feet away, visibly seething. By 1990, the marriage had buckled under the weight of jealousy and conflicting schedules. Felicity and Michael announced a separation, giving the tabloids exactly what they craved. Headlines screamed of The Good Life Gone Bad and Love Triangle at the National. Columnists speculated about clandestine dinners and secret getaways, though Felicity maintained a dignified silence. In interviews, she would only say, "Michael and I love each other, but sometimes love isn't enough." Her relationship with Tom Stoppard, meanwhile, grew more visible. The pair were spotted at London art exhibitions, private dinner parties, and eventually public premieres, their easy intimacy impossible to disguise. While neither confirmed an official romance for years, friends described their connection as deeply affectionate and quietly intense. Tom's clever wordplay delighted Felicity, while her quick wit and emotional warmth softened his intellectual coolness. The British press treated the unfolding drama like a serialized play. Every public appearance was dissected, every outfit decoded for hidden meaning. Felicity, once celebrated as the nation's wholesome sitcom darling, was recast in tabloids as a daring romantic adventurer. Some commentators praised her independence, others accused her of betrayal. The scrutiny was relentless, and Felicity later admitted that the constant attention felt like being under siege. The emotional toll was significant. Close friends recall nights when Felicity would retreat to her home in Richmond, switch off the phone, and weep in exhaustion. Yet even in these low moments, she remained fiercely protective of her privacy. Rather than feed the gossip machine, she poured her energy into work, taking challenging stage roles that demanded every ounce of her focus. In a twist worthy of a West End play, Felicity and Michael Rudman eventually found their way back to each other, first as cautious friends, then as something more. By the late 1990s, they were seen attending theater events side by side, sparking speculation of reconciliation. Felicity spoke tenderly of Michael in interviews, calling him a man who knows every version of me. Their renewed closeness was not without complications. Both carried the scars of their earlier battles. But the lingering affection between them was undeniable. By the late 1990s, Felicity Kendal and Michael Rudman had lived through enough passion and conflict to fill a dozen West End plays. Their reunion, tentative at first, grew into a surprising new chapter. Friends described their renewed bond as wiser and warmer, the sharp edges of youth softened by time. They still debated over theater productions, sometimes fiercely, but the old bitterness had cooled into playful sparring. One longtime colleague said, "It was as if they'd finally learned how to fight without drawing blood." The press, ever hungry for drama, tried to reignite rumors of jealousy's past. But Felicity refused to offer sound bites. When asked whether she and Michael were back together, she gave a wry smile and replied, "Life isn't a simple headline. We care for each other, and that's enough." It was a masterstroke of deflection, both truthful and tantalizing. Even as Felicity and Michael rebuilt their connection, the name Tom Stoppard continued to hover like an unfinished line of dialogue. Though their romantic relationship had cooled, Felicity and Tom maintained a warm friendship that confused and fascinated the public. They were occasionally seen together at literary events, laughing like old conspirators. Paparazzi photos of the pair sparked fresh speculation every few years, fueling the enduring narrative of an unbreakable bond. Privately, Felicity has admitted that Tom's influence on her life was profound. He challenged her intellectually, encouraged her to take daring roles, and offered a companionship built on mutual respect. Even Michael, once Tom's fiercest critic, eventually acknowledged the unique place the playwright held in Felicity's heart. Their triangle, once the stuff of tabloid frenzy, matured into something gentler, proof that love can evolve beyond possession. Though the romantic storms had calmed, Felicity remained a woman who thrived on spirited debate. During the 2000s, she became a beloved fixture of the West End, starring in demanding productions that often placed her at the center of artistic disagreements. Producers recall rehearsals where Felicity would challenge a director's interpretation with the same fearless energy she once brought to personal relationships. "She argues because she cares," one co-star observed. "She fights for the truth of a scene the way she once fought for the truth of her own heart." Felicity's private life in these years reflected a newfound balance. Her two sons, Charlie and Jacob, grew into adulthood, and she delighted in becoming a grandmother. Unlike earlier decades, she kept her family firmly shielded from paparazzi lenses, granting only the occasional interview where she spoke lovingly but briefly about them. When pressed about remarriage or long-term domestic arrangements, Felicity gave answers that revealed her hard-won philosophy. "I don't believe in tidy endings," she told one journalist. "Love is not about ownership. It's about connection, and sometimes that connection takes many different forms over a lifetime." These words resonated with fans who had followed her romantic journey for decades. They also hinted at the reason she never remarried despite deep bonds with both Michael Rudman and Tom Stoppard. Freedom had become her greatest love. In candid television appearances, Felicity occasionally allowed glimpses of the emotional battles behind her serene public image. She spoke of the loneliness that can follow a divorce, the sting of tabloid intrusion, and the courage it takes to begin again after heartbreak. But she also radiated optimism. "I've never been afraid of love," she once said. "It's the greatest adventure. Sometimes it works, sometimes it burns, but it always teaches you something." These remarks only fueled her legend as a woman of both heart and steel, a star who could charm an audience one moment and outwit a gossip columnist the next. Today, Felicity Kendal is celebrated not just as an actress, but as a symbol of unapologetic passion. Her career remains luminous, with stage triumphs and television roles that continue to captivate audiences. But it is her romantic history, spanning fiery marriages, whispered affairs, and courageous reconciliations, that gives her story its enduring fascination. The once scandalous triangle of Kendal, Rudman, and Stoppard has mellowed into a rich tapestry of lasting affection. Felicity herself has emerged as a pioneer of modern love, a woman who proved that relationships need not fit conventional molds to be meaningful. She has loved boldly, fought fiercely, and refused to let public opinion dictate her choices. As Felicity enters the later stages of her life and career, the press still tries to capture her in a single headline: "The Good Life star finds true love at last," or "Kendal's secret heartbreak." But the truth is far more intricate and far more interesting. Her story is not about one grand romance or one final victory. It is about the lifelong dance between independence and intimacy, a dance she continues with elegance and unapologetic flair. In interviews today, Felicity often laughs when asked about her past scandals. "Scandals?" she repeats, eyes sparkling. "They were just chapters in a very good story. And I'm still writing it." From youthful affairs in India to stormy marriages in London, from public love triangles to private reconciliations, Felicity Kendal's journey is a testament to passion without apology. Her life reminds us that love is not a single destination but an ever-changing landscape, sometimes wild, sometimes serene, always worth the risk.